When the grasses were showing their tender faces again, 2 families of us started for our own country, where we used to be happy. We had only 5 horses among us, because all the others had died in the cold, and we traveled on foot. After a while we came to All Gone Tree Creek. We camped, and I thought I would take the horses out to eat where the grass was good. But when I had gone only a little way, all of a sudden the funny feeling came again, and I heard a voice that said, "Be careful and watch. Something you shall see." The voice was so clear that I looked around to see who was there, and nobody was there. So I sat down to think about it. There was a tall bluff a little way from the camp, and it had 2 points on it. So I went over there and climbed to one of the tops where there were some big rocks scattered around. I lay down in those rocks and looked all around, but I could see nothing, and I began to wonder if I was only funny in thinking I had heard a voice. Then I looked over to the other point of the bluff, not far away, and there were 2 men crawling up toward the top on their bellies. I knew they were enemies, and I thought they were crows. But later I learned that they were Blackfeet. I lay as flat as I could and peeped around a rock at the 2 men. They were so near that I could have thrown a rock over there, and I thought, if I only had my gun, I could kill them both. They peeped over at our teepees in the valley. I could hear them talking now, and I knew they were planning how to attack us. After a little while, they crawled down backwards a short way, then got up and ran downhill and disappeared. When they were gone, I sat down and thought of my vision and began to pray to the spirits. I said, "Grandfathers, something may happen to me, but I will depend on the power you have given me. Hear me and help me." Then I ran over to our teepees and told the people we must flee at once, because I have seen enemies planning to attack. We were so small a party that we did not dare wait to take our teepees down, so we started right away and traveled very fast. As we fled east, a thundercloud came from the west behind us, and I knew it was coming to protect us. I could hear the thunder beings crying, "Hey, hey!" The cloud stood over us and did not rain much, but it was full of lightning and of voices. We had not gone so very far, and it was growing dark when we heard shooting behind us in the direction of our deserted camp, and we thought the enemies were shooting into the teepees, thinking that we might be in there yet. I know better than ever now that I really had power, for I had prayed for help from the grandfathers, and they had heard me, and sent the thunder beings to hide us and watch over us while we fled. Then we went to the soldiers' town at the mouth of Tongue River, and camped there with others of our people who had wandered away from the reservations into our old country. The soldiers took our guns away from us and most of our horses, leaving us only 2 horses for every teepee. There in the moon of making fat, we had a sun dance, and after this it seemed I could think of nothing but my vision. I was 16 years old and more, and I had not yet done anything the grandfathers wanted me to do, but they had been helping me. I did not know how to do what they wanted me to do. A terrible time began for me, and I could not tell anybody, not even my father and mother. I was afraid to see a cloud coming up, and whenever one did, I could hear the thunder beings calling to me, "Behold, your grandfathers, make haste." I could understand the birds when they sang, and they were always saying, "It is time, it is time." The crows in the day and the coyotes at night all called and called to me, "It is time, it is time, it is time." Time to do what? I did not know. I wondered if maybe I was only crazy, and my father and mother worried a great deal about me. When the frost began, I was glad, because there would not be any more thunderstorms for a long while, and I was more and more afraid of them all the time, for always there would be the voices crying, "Oh, hey, it is time, it is time." I could not tell them what was the matter, for then they would only think I was funnier than ever. I was 17 years old that winter. When the grasses were beginning to show their tender faces again, my father and mother asked an old medicine man by the name of Black Road to come over and see what he could do for me. By now I was so afraid of being afraid of everything that I told him about my vision, and when I was through, he looked long at me and said, "Nephew, I know now what the trouble is. You must do what the bay horse in your vision wanted you to do. You must do your duty and perform this vision for your people upon earth. You must have the horse dance first for the people to see. Then the fear will leave you. But if you do not do this, something very bad will happen to you." After the horse dance was over, it seemed that I was above the ground and did not touch it. When I walked, I felt very happy, for I could see that my people were all happier. Many crowded around me and said that they or their relatives who had been feeling sick were well again, and these gave me many gifts. Even the horses seemed to be healthier and happier after the dance. The fear that was on me so long was gone, and when thunderclouds appeared, I was always glad to see them, for they came as relatives to visit me. Everything seemed good and beautiful now, and kind. We stayed there near the mouth of the tongue until the end of the moon of making fat. Then the soldier chief told us that we could not be in that country because we had sold it, and it was not ours anymore. We had not sold it, but the soldiers took all the rest of our horses from us and what guns we had, and loaded us on a big fireboat that carried us down the Yellowstone and the Missouri to Fort Yates. There they unloaded us, and it was one of the new reservations they had made for the Lakota. The soldiers had taken the ponies away from all our people, and they said the Great Father in Washington would pay us for them. But if he ever did, I have not heard of it. I learned that my own band, the Oglalas, had been taken back to the country where we are now, and I decided that I ought to go there and perform my duty. So in the moon, when the plums are scarlet, I started with 3 others. We had to go afoot, and we had only bows and arrows for weapons. We traveled to the camp of the Burrells on Rosebud Creek, and then I came on alone to White Clay Creek, where the Washishus were building Pine Ridge Agency for the Oglalas. Our people called it the seat of Red Cloud, or the place where everything is disputed. There I stayed, and that winter, in the moon of popping trees, I was 18 years old. That was a very hard winter, and it was just like one long night with me laying awake, waiting and waiting and waiting for daybreak. For now the thunder beams were like relatives to me, and they had gone away when the frost came and would not come back until the grasses showed their tender faces again. Without them I felt lost, and I was alone there among my people. They seemed heavy and dark, and they could not know that they were heavy and dark. I could feel them like a great burden upon me. But when I would go all through my vision again, I loved the burden and felt pity for my people. And now, when I look about me upon my people in despair, I feel like crying, and I wish and wish my vision could have been given to a man more worthy. I wonder why it came to me, a pitiful old man who can do nothing. Men and women and children I have cured of sicknesses with the power the vision gave me. But my nation I could not help. If a man or woman or child dies, it does not matter long, for the nation lives on. It was the nation that was dying, and the vision was for the nation. but I have done nothing with it. After some time, I came to live here where I am now, between Wounded Knee Creek and Grass Creek. Others came too, and we made these little gray houses of logs that you see, and they are square. It is a bad way to live, for there can be no power in a square. You have noticed that everything an Indian does is in a circle, and that is because the power of the world always works in circles, and everything tries to be round. In the old days, when we were a strong and happy people, all our power came to us from the sacred hoop of the nation. And so long as the hoop was unbroken, the people flourished. The flowering tree was the living center of the hoop, and the circle of the four quarters nourished it. The east gave peace and light, the south gave warmth, the west gave rain, and the north with its cold and mighty wind gave strength and endurance. This knowledge came to us from the outer world without religion. Everything the power of the world does is done in a circle. The sky is round, and I have heard that the earth is round like a ball, and so are all the stars. The wind, in its greatest power, whirls. Birds make their nest in circles, for theirs is the same religion as ours. The sun comes forth and goes down again in a circle. The moon does the same, and both are round. Even the seasons form a great circle in their changing and always coming back again to where they were. The life of a man is a circle from childhood to childhood, and so it is in everything where power moves. Our teepees were round like the nest of birds, and these were always set in a circle. The nation's hoop, a nest of many nests, where the Great Spirit meant for us to hatch our children. But the Washishus have put us in these square boxes. Our power is gone, and we are dying. For the power is not in us anymore. We can look at our boys and see how it is with us. When we were living by the power of the circle in the way we should, boys were men at 12 or 13 years of age. But now, it takes them very much longer to mature. Well, it is as it is. We are prisoners of war while we are waiting here, but there is another world. One day in the moon of fatness, when everything was blooming, I invited one side to come over and eat with me. I had been thinking about the four-rayed herb that I had now seen twice in my vision. I knew that I must have this herb for curing, and I thought I could recognize the place where I had seen it growing in my visions. One side was willing to help me, so we got on our horses and rode over to Grass Creek. There, right on the side of a bank, the herb was growing, and I knew it, although I had never seen one like it before except in my vision. It had a root about as long as to my elbow, and this was a little thicker than my thumb. It was flowering in four colors, blue, white, red, and yellow. We got off our horses, and after I had offered red willow bark to the six powers, I made a prayer to the herb, and said to it, "Now we shall go forth to the two-leggeds, but only to the weakest ones, and there shall be happy days among the weak." Something must have told me to find the herb just then, for the next evening I needed it and could have done nothing without it. I was eating supper when a man by the name of Cuts to Pieces came in, and he was saying, "Hey, hey, hey," for he was in trouble. He said, "I have a little boy of mine, and he is very sick, and I am afraid he will die soon. He has been sick a long time. They say you have great power, so maybe you can save him for me. I think so much of him." I told Cuts to Pieces that if he really wanted help, he should go home and bring me back a sacred chanupa with an eagle feather on it. While he was gone, I thought about what I had to do, and I was afraid, because I had never cured anybody yet with my power, and I was very sorry for Cuts to Pieces. I prayed hard for help. When Cuts to Pieces came back with the sacred chanupa, I sent for one side to come and help me. Then I took the sacred chanupa and went to where the sick little boy was. My father and my mother went with us, and my friend, Standing Bear, was already there. I first offered the sacred chanupa to the 6 powers, then I passed it, and we all smoked. After that, I began making a rumbling thunder sound on the drum. You know when the power of the West comes to the two-leggeds, it comes with rumbling, and when it has passed, everything lifts up its head and is glad, and there is greenness. So I made this rumbling sound. Also, the voice of the drum is an offering to the spirit of the world. Its sound arouses the mind and makes men feel the mystery and power of things. When we entered the teepee, we went around from left to right, stopping on the west side when we had made the circle. You want to know why we always go from left to right like that? I can tell you something of the reason, but not all. Think of this. Is not the south the source of life, and does not the flowering stick truly come from there? And does not man advance from there toward the setting sun of his life? Then does he not approach the colder north where the white hairs are? And does he not then arrive, if he lives, at the source of light and understanding, which is the east? Then does he not return to where he began, to his second childhood, there to give back his life to all life and his flesh to the earth whence it came? The more you think about this, the more meaning you will see in it. The sick little boy looked as though he were only skin and bones. I held the sacred chanupa, the drum, and the 4-rayed herb all ready. So I asked for a wooden cup full of water and an eagle bone whistle, which was for the spotted eagle of my great vision. Everything was ready now, so I made low thunder on the drum, keeping time as I sent forth a voice. 4 times I cried, "Hi-ya, hey!" drumming as I cried to the spirit of the world. And while I was doing this, I could feel the power coming through me from my feet up, and I knew that I could help the sick little boy. I kept on sending a voice while I made low thunder on the drum, saying, "My grandfather, Great Spirit, you are the only one. To no other can anyone send voices. You have made everything, they say, and you have made it good and beautiful. You have said this to me, the weak shall walk. In vision you have taken me to the center of the world, and there you have shown me the power to make over. To you and to all your powers, and to Mother Earth I send a voice for help. You see, I have never done this before, and I now know that only one power would have been enough. But I was so eager to help the sick little boy that I called on every power there is. When I looked at the sick little boy again, he smiled at me, and I could feel that the power was getting stronger. I next took the cup of water, drank a little of it, and went around to where the sick little boy was. Standing before him, I stamped the earth 4 times. Then putting my mouth to the pit of his stomach, I drew through him the cleansing wind of the north. I next chewed some of the herb and put it in the water. Afterward, blowing some of it on the boy and to the 4 quarters, the cup with the rest of the water, I gave to the pretty young daughter of Cuts to Pieces. Then I told the Virgin to help the boy stand up and to walk around the circle with him, beginning at the south, the source of life. He was very poor and weak, but with the Virgin's help, he did this. Then I went away. Next day, Cuts to Pieces came and told me that his little boy was feeling better and was sitting up and could eat something again. In 4 days, he could walk around. He got well and lived to be 30 years old. I think I have told you, but if I have not, you must have understood that a man who has a vision is not able to use the power of it until after he has performed the vision on earth for the people to see. You remember that my great vision came to me when I was only 9 years old, and you have seen that I was not much good for anything until after I had performed the horse dance near the mouth of the Tongue River during my 18th summer. And if the great fear had not come upon me as it did, and forced me to do my duty, I might have been less good to the people than some man who had never dreamed at all, even with the memory of so great a vision in me. But the fear came, and if I had not obeyed it, I am sure it would have killed me in a little while. It was even then only after another ceremony in which I performed a vision that I had the power to practice as a medicine man, curing sick people, and many I cured with the power that came through me. Of course, it was not I who cured. It was the power from the outer world, and the visions and ceremonies had only made me like a hole through which the power could come to the two-leggeds. If I thought that I was doing it myself, the hole would close up and no power could come through. Then everything I could do would be foolish. To use the power of the buffalo, I had to perform that part of my vision for the people to see. I was in my 20th year when I performed the elk ceremony, as a duty to that part of my great vision. You will remember how the sacred Chanupa and the Tatanka were in the east and the elk in the south. It is from understanding that power comes, and the power in the ceremony was in understanding what it meant. For nothing can live well except in the manner that is suited to the way the sacred power of the world lives and moves. After this, I went on curing sick people, and I was busy doing this. I was in doubt no longer. I felt like a man, and I could feel the power with me all the time. That fall, after I performed the ceremony of the elk, they say the last of the buffalo herds was slaughtered by the Wasishus. I can remember when the buffalo were so many that they could not be counted, but more and more Wasishus came to kill them. The Wasishus did not kill them to eat. They killed them for the metal that makes them crazy, and they took only the hides to sell. Sometimes they did not even take the hides, only the tongues. You can see that the men who did this were crazy. Sometimes they did not even take the tongues. They just killed and killed because they liked to do that. When we hunted buffalo, we killed only what we needed. And when there was nothing left but heaps of bones, the Wasishus came and gathered up even the bones and sold them. All our people now were settling down in square gray houses, scattered here and there across this hungry land, and around them the Wasishus had drawn a line to keep them in. The nation's hoop was broken, and there was no center any longer for the flowering tree. The people were in despair. They seemed heavy to me, heavy and dark, so heavy that it seemed they could not be lifted, so dark that they could not be made to see any more. Hunger was among us often, for much of what the Great Father in Washington sent us must have been stolen by Wasishus, who were crazy to get money. I kept on curing the sick for 3 years more, and many came to me and were made over. But when I thought of my great vision, I felt like crying, for the sacred hoop was broken and scattered. The life of the people was in the hoop, and what are many little lives if the life of those lives be gone? But late in my 23rd summer, it seemed that there was a little hope. There came to us some Wasishus who wanted a band of Ogalalas for a big show that the other Pahushka had. They told us this show would be across the big water to strange lands, and I thought I ought to go because I might learn some secret of the Wasishu that would help my people somehow. Maybe if I could see the great world of the Wasishu, I could understand how to bring the sacred hoop together and make the tree to bloom again at the center of it. I looked back on the past and recalled my people's old ways, But they were not living that way anymore. They were traveling the black road, everybody for himself, and with little rules of his own, as in my vision. I was in despair, and I even thought that if the Washishus had a better way, then maybe my people should live that way. I know now that this was foolish, but I was young and in despair. The show people sent wagons from Rushville on the iron road to get us, and we were about 100 men and women. Many of our people followed us halfway to the iron road, and there we camped and ate together. Afterward, we left our people crying there, for we were going very far across the big water. We roared along on the iron road for 3 days. The towns we came to got bigger and bigger, until we were at a very big town called New York. And right there I could compare my people's ways with Washishu ways, and this made me sadder than before. I wished and wished that I had not gone away from home. I was surprised at the big houses and so many people, and there were bright lights at night so that you could not see the stars, and some of the lights I heard were made with the power of thunder. We stayed there and made shows for many, many Wasishus all that winter. After a while I got used to being there, but I was like a man who had never had a vision. I felt dead and my people seemed lost, and I thought I might never find them again. I did not see anything to help my people. I could see that the Washishus did not care for each other the way our people did before the nation's hoop was broken. They would take everything from each other if they could, and so there were some who had more of everything than they could use, while crowds of people had nothing at all and maybe were starving. They had forgotten that the earth was their mother. This could not be better than the old ways of my people. There was a prisoner's house on an island where the big water came up to the town, and we saw that one day. Men pointed guns at the prisoners and made them move around like animals in a cage. This made me feel very sad, because my people too were penned up in islands, and maybe that was the way the Washishus were going to treat them. In the spring it got warmer, but the Washishus had even the grass penned up. Some of our people went home and wanted me to go with them, but I had not seen anything good for my people yet. Maybe across the big water there was something to see, so I did not go home, although I was sick and in despair. They put us all on a very big fireboat, so big that when I first saw, I could hardly believe it, and when it sent forth a voice, I was frightened. After a while, I could see nothing but water, 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 and we did not seem to be going anywhere, just up and down. But we were told that we were going fast. If we were, I thought that we must drop off where the water ended, or maybe we might have to stop where the sky came down to the water. When evening came, a big wind was roaring and the water thundered. We had things that were meant to be hung up while we slept in them. This I learned afterward. We did not know what to do with these, so we spread them out on the floor and lay down on them. The floor tipped in every direction, and this got worse and worse, so that we rolled from one side to the other and could not sleep. We were frightened, and now we were all very sick too. At first the Washishus laughed at us, but very soon we could see that they were frightened too, because they were running around and were very much excited. Our women were crying, and even some of the men cried, because it was terrible and they could do nothing. After a while the Washishus came and gave us things to tie around us so that we could float. I did not put on the one they gave me. I did not want to float. Instead I dressed for death, putting on my best clothes that I wore in the show, and then I sang my death song. Others dressed for death too, and sang because if it was the end of our lives and we could do nothing, we wanted to die brave. We could not fight this that was going to kill us, but we could die so that our spirit relatives would not be ashamed of us. It was harder for us because we were all so sick. Everything we had eaten came right up, and then it kept on trying to come up when there was nothing there. Some of the buffalo and elk that we had with us for the show died, and the Wasishus threw them into the water. When I saw the poor buffalo thrown over, I felt like crying, because I thought right there they were throwing part of the power of my people away. After we had been on the fireboat a long while, we could see many houses, and then many other fireboats tied close together along the bank. The name of this very big town was London. We stayed in this place 6 months, and many people came to see the show. One day we were told that Majesty was coming. I did not know what that was at first, but I learned afterward. It was Grandmother England, who owned Grandmother's land where we lived a while after the Washishus murdered Crazy Horse. She came to the show in a big shining wagon, and there were soldiers on both sides of her, and many other shining wagons came too. That day other people could not come to the show, just Grandmother England and some people who came with her. Sometimes we had to shoot in the show, but this time we did not shoot at all. We danced and sang, and I was one of the dancers chosen to do this for the grandmother, because I was young and limber then and could dance many ways. We stood right in front of Grandmother England. She was little but fat, and we liked her, because she was good to us. After we had danced, she spoke to us. She said something like this: I am 67 years old. All over the world I have seen all kinds of people, but today I have seen the best-looking people I know. If you belonged to me, I would not let them take you around in a show like this. She said other good things too, and then she said we must come to see her, because she had come to see us. She shook hands with all of us. Her hand was very little and soft. We gave a big cheer for her. In about a half moon after that we went to see the grandmother. They put us in some of those shining wagons and took us to a very beautiful place where there was a very big house with sharp pointed towers on it. There were many seats built high in a circle, and these were just full of Washishus, who were all pounding their heels and yelling, "Jubilee, Jubilee, Jubilee." I never heard what this meant. They put us together in a certain place at the bottom of the seats. All the people in the seats were roaring and yelling, "Jubilee" and "Victoria." Then we saw Grandmother England again. Her dress was all shining, and her hat was all shining, and her wagon was all shining, and so were the horses. She looked like a fire coming. When she came to where we were, her wagon stopped and she stood up. Then all those people stood up and roared and bowed to her. But she bowed to us. We sent up a great cry, and our women made the tremolo. Then, when it was quiet, we sang a song to the grandmother. That was a very happy time. We liked Grandmother England because we could see that she was a fine woman, and she was good to us. Maybe if she had been our grandmother, it would have been better for our people. Yes, that was a happy time, but it was all over. We went to Manchester and had a show there for several moons. When the show was going to leave very early next morning, 3 other young men and myself got lost in Manchester, and the fireboat went away without us. We could not talk the Washishu language, and we did not know what to do, so we just roamed around. After a while, we found 2 other Lakotas who had been left behind, and one of these could talk English. He said if we went to London, we could get money in another show that was there, and then we could go home. We were all sick to go home, so the English talker got some tickets with the money we all had together, and we went to London on the Iron Road. The show was called Mexican Joe. It was a small show, but they gave us $1 every day for being in it. After we had been in London a while, Mexican Joe took us to Paris, and we had a show there a long while. There was a Washishu girl who came to the show very often. She liked me and took me home to see her father and mother. They liked me too and were good to me. I could not talk their language. I made signs, and the girl learned a few Lakota words. I was more and more sick to go home all the time, because it had been 2 winters since I went away. Then one morning I did go home for a while. I was feeling well, and we were just sitting down to eat the first meal. This girlfriend of mine was sitting by me, and her mother and father and 2 sisters were sitting down too. As we sat there, I looked up at the roof, and it seemed to be moving. The house was going around, up at the top, and stretching upward as it went around. I could see that we were all rising fast with the whole house, and it was turning around as it rose. Then a cloud was coming down as we rose, and suddenly I was on it, and the other people and the house were falling back away from me. Then I was alone on this cloud, and it was going fast. I clung to it hard because I was afraid I might fall off. Far down below I could see houses and towns and green land and streams, and it all looked flat. Then I was right over the big water. I was not afraid anymore because by now I knew I was going home. It was dark, and then it was light again, and I could see a big town below me, and I saw that I was in my own country again. I was very happy now. The cloud and I kept on going very fast, and I could see towns and streams and towns and green land. Then I was right over Pine Ridge, and the cloud stopped. I looked down and could not understand what I saw, because it seemed that nearly all of my people of the different bands were gathered together, there in a big camp. I saw my father's and mother's teepee. They were outside, and she was cooking. I wanted to jump off the cloud and be with them, but I was afraid it would kill me. While I was looking down, my mother looked up, and I felt sure she saw me. But just then, the cloud started back, going very fast. I was very sad, but I could not get off. The cloud carried me back to the girl's house. Then I was lying on my back in bed, and the English talker from the show told me how it was. While I was sitting at breakfast, they said, I had looked up and smiled, and then I had fallen like dead out of my chair. I had been dead 3 days, except that once in a while I would breathe just a little. Often, they said, they could not feel my heart at all. They were sure I would soon be really dead, and they were getting ready to buy my coffin. Maybe if I had not come back to life that time, they would have given me a good coffin. But, as it is, I think it will only be a box. I did not tell the people where I had been because I knew they could not believe me. A few days after that, these people heard that Pahushka was in town again, so they took me to where he had his show, and he was glad to see me. He had all his people give me 3 cheers. Then he asked me if I wanted to be in the show or if I wanted to go home. I told him I was sick to go home. So he said he would fix that. He gave me a ticket and $90. Then he gave me a big dinner. Pahushka had a strong heart. He put me on another big fireboat. We were on the water 8 days. I was sick part of the time, but I was not sad because I was going home. When I got to Pine Ridge, everything was just as I had seen it from the cloud. All the Lakotas were there as I had seen them, because that was the year of the treaty, when the Washishus bought some more of our land. My mother's teepee was right where I had seen it, when I looked down from the cloud, and other people were camped exactly where I saw them. My parents were in great joy to see me, and my mother cried because she was so happy. I cried too. I was supposed to be a man now, but the tears came out anyway. My mother told me she had dreamed one night in her sleep that I had come back on a cloud, but could not stay, so I told her about my vision. There was hunger among my people before I went away across the big water, because the Washishus did not give us all the food they promised in the Black Hills Treaty. They made that treaty themselves. Our people did not want it and did not make it. Yet the Washishus who made it had given us less than half as much as they promised. So the people were hungry before I went away. But it was worse when I came back. My people looked pitiful. There was a big drought, and the rivers and creeks seemed to be dying. Nothing would grow that the people had planted, and the Washishus had been sending less cattle and other food than ever before. The Washishus had slaughtered all the buffalo and shut us up in pens. It looked as though we might all starve to death. We could not eat lies, and there was nothing we could do. And now the Washishus had made another treaty to take away from us about half the land we had left. Our people did not want this treaty either. But 3 Stars came and made the treaty just the same because the Washishus wanted our land. So the flood of Washishus, dirty with bad deeds, gnawed away half of the land that was left to us. So it was, our people were pitiful and in despair. But early that summer, when I came back from across the big water, strange news had come from the west, and the people had been talking about it. They were talking about it when I came home, and that was the first I had heard of it. It was hard to believe, and when I first heard of it, I thought it was only foolish talk that somebody had started somewhere. This news said that out west, at a place near where the great mountains stand before you came to the big waters, there was a sacred man among the Paiutes who had talked to the Great Spirit in a vision, and the Great Spirit had told him how to save the Indian peoples and make the Washishus disappear and bring back all the buffalo and the people who were dead, and how there would be a new earth. Before I came back, the people had got together to talk about this, and they had sent 3 men, Good Thunder, Brave Bear, and Yellow Breast, to see this sacred man with their own eyes and learn if the story about him was true. So these 3 men had made the long journey west, and in the fall after I came home they returned to the Ogolalas with wonderful things to tell. These 3 men all said the same thing, and they were good men. They saw the Wanikia, who was the son of the Great Spirit, and they talked to him. Washishus called him Jack Wilson, but his name was Wovoka. He told them that there was another world coming, just like a cloud. It would come in a whirlwind out of the west and would crush out everything in this world, which was old and dying. In that other world there was plenty of meat, just like old times. And in that world all the dead Indians were alive, and all the buffalo that had ever been killed were roaming around again. This sacred man gave some Wakan red paint and 2 eagle feathers to Good Thunder. The people must put this paint on their faces, and they must dance a ghost dance that the sacred man taught to Good Thunder, Yellow Breast, and Brave Bear. If they did this, they could get on this other world when it came, and the Washishus would not be able to get on, and so they would disappear. When he gave the 2 eagle feathers to Good Thunder, the Wakan man said, "Receive these eagle feathers and behold them, for my father will cause these to bring your people back to him." This was all that was heard the whole winter. My father died in the first part of the winter from the bad sickness that many people had. This made me very sad. Everything good seemed to be going away. My younger brother and sister had died before I came home, and now I was fatherless in this world. But I still had my mother. I was working in a store for the Washishus so that I could get something for her to eat, and I just kept on working there and thinking about what Good Thunder, Yellow Breast, and Brave Bear had told. But I did not feel sure yet.